For my next review, I'm going to look at one of the more expensive games in my collection. It's a Super Famicom Japanese exclusive. The name in Japanese is Umihara Kawase, or something like that. My pronunciation's not so good. There's the front cover of it, of the box. So let's take a look at the fact file for the game. Umihara Kawase was released in 1994. As I mentioned, it's a Japanese exclusive, published by NHK, which was a Japanese TV company, I believe, and developed by TNN. And the price I paid, £47.35 for a fully boxed complete copy in excellent condition. And the current going rate on eBay is £50 plus for a similar sort of offering. So the game doesn't actually have an English translation. No one seems to have bothered. It is just known as Umihara Kawase. So let's take a look at it. So here's the box of the game, and as you can see, not a lot of English language on there, but that text there does say Umihara Kawase, and as I understand it, that is the name of the main character, who you can see there with her little pink rucksack. And the developer name TNN is all over the place on this box cover, so you've got it there with an English translation, think about needs of notice for human being. Not quite sure what that's supposed to mean, and then it's mentioned again down in the bottom corner there. And the spine, one side's got the girl on it again, and the text, the Japanese text, and the other side's got the Super Famicom branding and the text for the game again, and the same on the two ends. And on the back, a number of screenshots and little cartoons of how the gameplay works, which obviously we'll go into when we play the game. But you see the screenshots there, and another couple of them there, one of which has got a giant sort of whale type character on it. A whale with legs though, by the looks of it. And lots of other information on the back, none of which I can really read. So moving on to the instruction manual, which again doesn't have a lot of English text in, or virtually none, but it probably has some nice pictures in, so let's have a quick scan through it. So yeah, lots of Japanese text, some screenshots there. Looks like some kind of a tutorial. More Japanese text, that's obviously the controls. Lots more Japanese text and a couple more screenshots. And on it goes, you get the idea. And you've probably seen enough of that. There's way more pages, but probably nothing else of great interest in there. Let's get on with playing the game, shall we? The game begins then with a pretty simplistic title screen. You can see the Japanese logo for the game there at the top, and some wallpaper in the background for want of a better explanation, and a few options there. And after a few seconds it does go into a demo. Which I may as well use to explain how the game works. Basically it's a platformer, multi-directional scrolling, and the only aim of the game really is to get to the end of the level and on to the next one. You control this little girl in a school uniform who's got a little pink rucksack and also a fishing rod, or fishing line to be more precise, which she can use to hook onto various parts of the landscape and manoeuvre around them. So she can use it to swing across gaps, for example, as you're seeing there. And when she gets to the end of the level, she moves on to another level. You can also hook onto the various enemies in the level and put them into your backpack, which gives you points, and that's pretty much the only way to score points within the game. That's pretty much it. Pretty simplistic concept, so let's give it a try. First of all, title screen options is basically the option to switch between mono and stereo sound. You can do replays of games, which doesn't mean like continuing, it actually means viewing an action replay of the game that you just played. So basically you can use it, it automatically records speed runs within the game, so we'll ignore that and we'll get on with the game. So at the start of each level it gives you a little bit of a tutorial, certainly in the early levels, to show you how to use your fishing wire thing. So basically you can move left or right, you can jump, and obviously most importantly you can activate the reel which you can shoot at various parts. It's only got a certain length, so you can't get up to the top there, for example, but you can get across this. And the easiest way to do that is not to try and swing it as a diagonal, it's just to whack it over there. You have to hold the button down. If you let go, then the hook lets go. So if I now walk off the edge of this platform, you can see she's kind of hanging there under the water. By the way, falling in the water will kill you instantly. So you can use the up and down buttons then to reel the wire back in, which allows you to then jump up onto the platform there and move on to the next section of the level. First level's pretty easy. Some conveyor belts there, ladders, typical stuff you'd expect in platform games. Here's the first enemy, which, as you can probably see, is a big goldfish. There's definitely an aquatic... Ooh, I've gone the wrong way with my wire there. You can see the wire's quite bouncy, quite difficult to control. That has positive and negative things, connotations to it, which we'll see in due course. So yeah, I'll climb up there. It's a very aquatic or marine theme to the game. As mentioned, you can hook onto the enemies, reel them in with the controller, and that then puts them in the backpack and scores you some points. Different enemies on the screens, all marine style creatures, fish or sort of kind of crustacean like creatures for the most part. So this first level's reasonably easy. And you could sort of milk this level for points, but the real aim of the game is not to get points, it's to just progress as far as possible. So let's try and do that. The enemies, as you can see, spawn quite randomly, and that can become a bit of a frustration later in the game. So to complete the level, you go through the door and you're on to the next level, which shows you, if you hadn't already worked out, how to hook in the enemies. And straight away you're presented with a vertically climbing conveyor belt, and the best way to go up that conveyor belt is to hook onto it and just let it pull you up. So graphically it's quite nice, and the backgrounds are a bit naff, to be honest. They're kind of some pre-drawn digitised backgrounds by the looks of it, pretty bland, but the foreground colours are nice and colourful, simplistic sort of design for the various platforms, nice animation on your main character, and the enemies are quite nicely drawn as well and animated. It's not the most complex of graphics for a SNES game. The most impressive thing really is the sort of manipulation of this fishing wire, which you can kind of use in all different ways. Some of the enemies, by the way, don't kill you, they'll just kind of push you over. These little fish that are bouncing around, they just push you along, they don't actually kill you. It's only the large enemies that kill you. Like this, well, I don't know, is it a seahorse or a big eel? I'm not entirely sure. What I do know is I don't want it there, so. And then we've got another conveyor belt over here, and that kind of flirts you all over the place. And another one up the top there, which is handily bouncing me up to the top of the level there. Reel the wire in a little swing to get over to this platform, and away I go. And as you can see, I'm pretty close to the door again. There's not many enemies around in this section either, actually. So let's go on to the next level. So here we are on field 3, they're called fields, actually it's field 2, the first one was field 0 for some reason. They're not called levels, they're called fields. So again, it gets a little bit more complicated now. You can see there's various ways to go with this. I'll go to the right for starters. And there's also an extra life down the bottom there, which is another pink rucksack, which you hook in. The other thing to mention, music and sound. The music's quite jolly, typical sort of jolly SNES game music, and the sounds are quite good. Nothing too spectacular, again just the usual sort of noises you'd expect with firing out a fishing reel and hooking in giant goldfish, I suppose, if there is a noise that portrays that. and thus far it's relatively simple, as you can tell. And I'm already to the end of the third level, so that was nice and easy. And we'll move on to the next one. So a little change in the background music, but otherwise not much change. Actually, some of the landscapes have changed now as well. This landscape's a little bit more barren looking, and the blocks that make up the platforms have changed colour as well. And on this one we make our way to the top, and we'll also see some new enemies, which are some slightly more terrifying looking fish, although fish with legs are rather comical. And this is where it starts to get a little bit more difficult as well, I think. You've got more things to navigate across and so on. And slightly more chance of getting killed by these big items, big enemies, sorry. There's a giant pencil there. She seems to be in a strange world, that's a cross between a marine world and, like, I don't know, a giant world. Basically a world filled with giants. I don't know. I'm making up as I go along. So down the bottom of here is another big fish, which we'll hook in. Make our way to the top. Oops. Oh, and I've got killed. That was a bit terrible. As I mentioned, it does get more difficult. So I'll quickly make my way back to that point. Not sure what I'm doing now. I've gone the wrong way. Luckily I managed to hook onto the platform before I realised that I was going the wrong way and fell to my doom in the water. You probably see on the, I don't know why, by the way, the score and the lives and stuff, the kind of readout is rather oddly placed on the screen. Rather than putting it right at the top or the bottom, it's kind of just in the middle, right in the middle of the playing area, which is a little bit peculiar. As you can probably see, I've got 10 lives at the moment. They're in the top right corner. There's also a time limit on each level, which is not too difficult to complete in the time limit at this point, but it does get more difficult. Let's see if I can get this level completed with a little bit more success than last time. Oh, it's got me again. That's really frustrating. So I'm on my third attempt at trying to complete this level now. I must be missing something. Ah, I think I've got it now. Get him while he's underneath it. Of course you do. As you can see, the enemies do respawn, as I mentioned, and to get up here you just jump on the edge of the platform and away we go to the next level. So far nothing too challenging. This control mechanism, by the way, the swinging rope thing, the only thing that's anywhere close to this that I can think of is Bionic Commando, but you have much less control over the rope in that game than you do in this one. So it is a very unique control mechanism, and sometimes rather frustrating as well, as you'll probably see at some point fairly soon as the level starts to get a little bit more difficult. Like that, jump up a ledge, and something materialises right just as you do that and runs into you and kills you. As you've seen, there's no checkpoints or health, it's just instant kills, and you never know exactly when an enemy's going to appear, so you do have to be pretty careful, and it's sometimes impossible to predict when they're going to appear. Oh, God almighty. The lives do soon dissipate. This is the point at which it starts to get quite difficult, and we're only a few levels in. So what we've got here is a game that looks like a cute, sort of kid-friendly platformer, but with one-hit kills and no continues either. It's got very old-school, rock-hard arcade game style difficulty to it. certainly not much forgiveness in the game. Those enemies do kind of vanish and reappear really quickly as well. So to get across here I need to do a bit of swinging, I think. Need the rope to be a bit longer first though. Oh, fell in the water. It's another thing that just kills you off as well. Oh, I don't believe it! You can see the lives just vanish really quickly. Just about to swing across there if you hadn't worked it out, and I could see that a baddie was appearing, so I tried to avoid it and end up killing myself. There's suddenly a lot of enemies up there. It's going to be quite difficult to avoid. Oh, now an enemy's appeared at the top. Yeah, it's getting really frustrating. Probably frustrating to watch and annoying to watch as well, because I'm getting absolutely nowhere. Oh, hang on, I can swing over there. That's much more useful. I'm trying to swing above. Get myself up that way instead. That's a lot easier. I wish I'd found that out 3 or 4 goes ago. Looks like there's a hook above here as well. So where next? Must be over here next. I'm assuming I've got to get over this side next, but I need to do it when there's no enemies there. Which is proving quite difficult at the moment. There we go. Oh, I'm in trouble now. Oh, that's handy, that's just vanished just at the right time. At last, a bit of luck goes my way. And I guess I'm going across here next. Okay, there's the door. Oh, that was close. Yeah, so controlling this wire is quite interesting to do. I've got no idea where I'm going now with it. Oh, there we go. Finally got past that level. On about my 5th attempt with only 3 lives remaining. I don't imagine it's going to get much easier from this point. There's a giant carrot on this level. Again, unusual. There's no doubt in saying that this is a very Japanese game. There's some characters and so on that are just quintessentially Japanese. There's things going on in the game that are difficult to understand, and this is the bit I was talking about, or the creatures I was talking about, where they don't kill you, but these fish keep jumping out of this barrel at the top here, and you've got to somehow try and get past them without getting knocked down. There's no way to avoid them, as far as I can tell. You just got to try and get your timing right and not get thrown into an enemy that will kill you. So the frustration just continues. So yeah, it's not difficult to see why this didn't come out in Western territories, because it's a weird game anyway, and with a difficulty level pitched more at the hardcore Japanese gaming crowd than the casual SNES playing teenagers of the early 90s. You can see pretty much why it wouldn't have sold very well in Western territories. It's quite a rare game. It's not, well, rare is not really the right word. The word is probably obscure. It's not really that rare. There's plenty of copies of it on eBay, but it's always quite expensive, which suggests that it's a coveted game, if not a particularly rare one. So I'm just trying to work. Oh, that was quite easy to do actually. There we go. Where are we going next? Up or down? Up or down? Probably down would make more sense, I would think. That was alright, that wasn't too tricky. Oh, the door's down there. How on earth do I get to that? This looks like it could result in severe loss of life. Let's see how we get on. First thing to do is avoid these bad guys, of course. That's probably the easy part. I can't work out how I'm going to get down here without just dropping off the side and throwing the hook. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to drop down here. Oh, there we go. That's got me a certain distance through it. Okay, now comes the really tricky part, I think. Although, maybe I can just fire up to the roof and then lower myself off the side here. Am I going to be able to swing across there? Oh, that wasn't actually as difficult as I thought it was going to be. This is as far as I've got in the game now, with a couple of lives left. Let's see what happens next. Looks like more of the same. More jolly tunes, more things to jump over, more water to fall in, more enemies to kill me. The usual story, pretty much. Oh, we've got moving elevators type platforms now as well, though. That's a new thing. Let's just hitch a ride on one of those. Oh, okay, that's new. You get crushed at the top of there. You live and learn with one life left to go. So the one thing I don't want to do is wait till that gets right to the top. Let's see what happens next. There's something go down there and no doubt would crush me. This is going to be tricky. Oh no, maybe not. That's not too bad. Oh, they're coming from all directions here. Interesting. I'm not really sure what I'm doing here now. Okay, I have a theory. Let's give this a try. Let's fire the thingy up there. Dangle off here a little bit. Wait for one of these platforms to drop quite close to me and then jump across. That worked alright. What next? There we go, that wasn't too difficult. Oh, we've got spikes to avoid now as well. It's certainly got more challenging very quickly. Oh, what a disaster. Is that my last life? No, one more go. So, probably not going to get much further in the game. On the third level, by the way, oh, that's problematic. On the third level of the game, there is actually a door that will take you to level 10. So there are branching pathways somewhere in the game, which gives it some replayability. The only problem is level 10 was even more difficult than the levels you've been watching right now. So probably better to just avoid that. Oh, what have I done there? What a disaster. I panicked there and I've blown it completely. And that's it, that's game over. There's no continues, there's no restarting from level 6 or whatever I was on. That's it. So, what can you say about the game? It's bloody hard. Old school, rock hard, arcade style difficulty, cute platform game, very original, nothing like it that I'm aware of. And worth a play, yeah. Worth 40 odd quid? Probably not, but I'll probably keep it anyway and try and persevere with it a little bit further.
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
2, 1, 0.